Hi everybody, welcome to the Creative Corner, an opportunity to meet new authors, find a bit about their books, why they wrote it, and what they're wanting to achieve with it. And again, joining me, The Flash. How you doing, mate?
Good man, how are you this morning?
Not too bad, you're looking really good today.
Really? Thank you. I don't know if I can say the same about you.
Well, I had eye surgery last week and I can't really see, so I'm thinking you look really good today.
Oh, did
You know
well. Yeah. Thanks, bro.
Well, we have to play a pun on it somehow. Anyway, today we're about meeting a new author called 𝘾𝙧𝙚𝙬𝙧. He's from New Zealand, but he hails from Scotland. And Stu, welcome.
Why, thank you.
Tell us a bit about you. Who is 𝘾𝙧𝙚𝙚𝙬𝙧?
𝘾𝙧𝙚𝙬𝙧, as you say, is just a wee lad from a small village in Scotland. But travelled the world, seen a lot of the world, and spent a whole load of time in uniform in the British Army, running covert operations, and ended my career, highlight of my career, training the next generation of soldiers, and then left and started a software company. Now, people who know me, I don't do software, but over 3 years we raised investment, we built a 7-figure company, and I got out because I realised that what I really love doing is coaching and mentoring folks. And throughout my time in military and in business, I built a framework. So I thought I'd actually spend time developing that and using that to help people change their lives.
Wow, so the integration between being a soldier and then working in IT and then obviously, you know, being a coach, each of those have kind of fed into each other and helped develop a program or a philosophy for your students?
Completely. So the British Army are absolutely brilliant at teaching leadership, but leadership actually comes from here. You've got to make it your own. So I made it my own with the Lead Through Life framework, and then tested it in the military. It worked. I then threw it out the window when I started in business, thinking it must be different. Turns out it's not. Took a long time getting it back, and realised that actually the framework works for anyone who just actually wants to live a better life. So
before I go on to my next question, I actually just want to ask you about the software.
Yeah.
Because you dropped that little line that you're not a software guy.
Yep.
So how did that actually come about? If you're not a software guy, I mean, and 7 figures, that's quite impressive. So
it was a good idea. The company that I joined was actually a consultancy. There were 4 of us, and you're working consultancy, you're either in feast or famine. You're either doing the work or you're doing the business development. Unless you get to a number, and I reckon that number's around about 20 consultants, so you've got enough BD going on as well as the work. And I looked at it and I looked at what we were doing and I said, we could productize that. I didn't know what the hell that meant. I just went, let's productize that. And everyone else went, that's a brilliant idea. And I went, oh. So we built a minimum viable product. We went out and an investor looked at it and said he liked the idea, he liked the team. So I was then stuck building a software company. And yeah, I mean, the software is great, it works. I had some absolutely awesome developers in New Zealand and in Vietnam working for me. And I did the chief exec stuff, I did the leadership stuff, which is what I do. And they got on and built the software.
Do you miss your time from being in the military?
I feel that question every time I'm asked. I had an absolutely amazing career. I got to work with some phenomenal soldiers. I got to do all manner of mad stuff. And I look back on it with joy and humility, but my time was done. But it was a very, very exciting time. I do miss the operational side of it. But I was getting a little bit too senior for that to play much of a part. So now I look back with, as I say, with great joy and humility. But it's a time that's passed.
good answer. That's a really good answer. So out of all of that, the military and the surprise software company and the corporate coaching, if I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah.
At what point along that line did the idea for the book germinate?
I was at a personal development thing in San Francisco last October. It's the first time I'd ever got Liz, my wife, to a personal development thing. So we were sitting in the audience, and day one, Liz was, yeah, I'm the plus one. Yeah, yeah. Day three, she was, I'm going to write a book. And I went, oh, okay, well, what are you going to write a book about? And she's a midwife. So I'm going to write a book, and it's called, what did you say it was going to be called? It's called, it's a picture of a baby being handed over to mother, and the book was called, Now Don't Kill This. So anyway, we got home, and as happens with personal development stuff for most of us, you get home and life gets in the way, and actually that was the thing that triggered me. I thought, yeah, it's time to write a book, because I'd written a lot but just hadn't been able to pull it all together. So yeah, November the 7th, 2018, I committed to writing, and then got on with it last year, and this is the result.
Awesome.
Who's it aimed at? Who's the target market for Lead Through Life?
Everyone. Everyone's going to buy it. So it's really targeted at those small business owners who've lost their passion. Yeah, they got started and they had such a dream for the business, and then it got tough, and they spend all of the time in the business and they forget the joy. And the joy directly, lack of joy directly affects your cash flow. You've got to love what you're doing. So that's really where it's focused. But then it's also for, parents who waking up one day and find they've got a teenager. Yeah. And they're looking at this teenager thinking, I don't want them to have the life that I've ended up with. But then they also look at themselves and they reflect and go, wait a minute, I had such great dreams when I was at that age. What happened? So it's that sort of space of, that sort of people that they know there's so much more, but they can't find it.
That's interesting. There's a couple of things that popped into my head there. Number one is when I realised I had teenagers, I looked at the door and thought, how quickly can I run through that and get the hell away from them? But no, it was about, and I take on board what you're saying about finding their joy, because my children hated the education system. They did not strive in it. They were intelligent enough, but they did not strive in it. They did not thrive in it. And when they wanted to get out, they hit me up about it, and I said, what's your plan? And they told me what they wanted to do, which was a stretch, but it was a passion of theirs. And I gave them a year, and I said, well, you pull it off, and you've got 1 year living for free, and then what will be. They all made it work. And also, in correlation with small business owners, we talk about this. We just had a bit of a look at each other when you were talking.
I saw that.
Yeah, we constantly talk about ensuring you're working to an inspired level and you're empowered with what you're doing. And before we started this interview, you asked me what my day looked like, and it literally is 5 a.m. in my calendar, and seeing I've got an interview with Stu and Jerry, and then I've got to catch up with Josh, and I get excited because it's all creative and it's all inspired. And I think if you lose that, and we get lost in the motions or in the process so much, we forget what drives us. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's interesting. I bought a book from Penguin India late last year, and it was a modern philosopher looking at the philosophies from an ancient Indian philosopher who, we're talking thousands of years, who was actually very interesting life, but that aside, he was one of the only men that actually beat Alexander the Great. And fascinating story, but the biggest thing out of what I took from the book was, you had to start everything with enthusiasm. And then, I showed Ocean, I built a model based on what I read from the book, and it starts with enthusiasm. And it was interesting because, this is teachings from some bloke 3,000 years ago, and it's still important today. I know but we still forget it. So.
But we do forget it, and you're too many business coaches. The line is cash flow is king. Now I get it. If you don't have cash, the business isn't going to work. I get that completely. Cash flow is important, but actually that passion is the thing that drives it. I mean, I've got clients who own restaurants, and they're just not having fun. So the food's not as good, and they complain when people look at the menu and leave. Well, don't do that. One of the first things I did with them, I said, right, get some artwork up on the walls. I said, oh, where are we going to get the artwork from? And they said, well, we've got a whole load in the garage. I said, right, get it up. That weekend was the best weekend they'd had in 3 months, because they were looking at it going, this feels like us, this feels like what we're doing. Get that passion back and the money will follow. And then you've got the leverage to actually do what you want to do.
I remember when I started Ocean Publishing, and there was this, I'd always worked for somebody else, I'd always been at another publishing house. And there was this moment of anxiety and fear, how the author's going to come here, how do I know? And you take a big risk when you start a business. And I didn't even have to think about it. They just rolled through the door, and when I asked them, what brought you here? Your passion. You love what you do, it's obvious. And again, with the environment that you're creating for yourself, and we were kind of talking about it on a video call on the way here with Thor, and also Flash and I are conscious of it. The environment in our office needs to feed that passion. So like in my office, I've got things on all 3 walls that drives me to what I've done, what I'm going to do, to keep that motivation there. Anyway, we're going off topic, but well, not really, because it's all on topic.
Because it is all on topic. So in terms of feedback from the audiences so far, have you had any that you've sort of been drip feeding the book and what you've got out there?
Yeah, I mean, one of my first mentors was a chap called 𝘾𝙧𝙚𝙬𝙧.
Yes.
Sam started MedRecruit. Sam's got a great story, but he was trained to be a doctor, and drinking was a passion of his. Had a major accident, and woke up and decided, right, I'm changing my life. He built MedRecruit, and went on to. He's the one person in history to change the Hippocratic Oath to make sure doctors look after themselves. He's come back, and actually his quote's on the front page of the book. So he's come back and said, wow, this is just a new way of looking at leadership. Everyone from Sam to people in the military who've come back, guys that I fought with, who've come back and said, yeah, actually this is the real Stu, and this stuff works. But then, there's also the quieter ones who haven't made it into the books. But one of my clients last week said, do you know what? I realised I've now got to step up. I've got to step up a level. That was a really, really intense coaching session. You've just raised your game. You go, right, brilliant. This is, the people are actually responding to the framework. And it can just be one bit of the framework, or it can be all of it. One bit leads onto the rest, and that's the sort of feedback that is just it's just great, and that's from teenagers right through to very successful business owners.
And is that what you want to achieve? Like we spoke a bit about, finding the joy and finding that passion again. Is that what you're wanting to invigorate in people? Is that the mission for the book?
The mission is so much bigger than just the book, but the mission for the book is just just go and read a bit of it, and read one of my stories in the book and reflect on your life. Reflect on a story of your own and realise how awesome you actually are, and move forward from there. And there's little exercises in the book. There's there's suggestions of how you can take it forward. There's a workbook that you can get to through my website. So it's not just the book, it's the workbook that allows you to then take time to reflect on it.
Obviously, I've been working with you to bring this book into the world for quite a while, and what I really like about it is it gives the reader, it almost gives them the permission to learn, to make them sort of stop and reflect, as you say, and then that's what I really like. It's sort of quite comforting rather than what I would imagine is from an Harmony perspective, sort of yelling at us.
And yes, it's fair. I do actually talk about that in the book, that autocratic leadership style of you will. That's not how we get the best out of people, and certainly operating in small teams. I knew that running covert operations is it's a small team game, and it starts with knowing yourself, and it starts with knowing your team intimately. And knowing your team intimately means that you don't ever have to get autocratic, because they know it's in the background. And I can get autocratic, but I don't need to.
Yep.
I mean, I think you and I had one autocratic conversation, and we did what we had to do. Both of us did what we had to do, and then we got on with it.
Yeah.
And you're being autocratic all of the time, being shouty all of the time, it's tiring. So let's not do it. Let's actually operate in that space of love. And I'm going to use that word because we're frightened of that word in the 21st century. If we operate with love in everything we do, we can only be successful.
Agreed. That's awesome. So, what did you learn about the writing process? Obviously it was probably a new journey for you to take on. So,
what did I learn about the writing process? I think it's the framework of the book was easy. Obviously, it already existed, and I've got the framework of the next book already. But I've promised not to start writing it just yet. But it's the focus to get on and do it, and actually bringing people around about you to help. I mean, that was probably the biggest lesson, was get people around about you to help. There's people who know, people know how to do this. And I think without the assistance of you guys and others, that it would still be lots and lots of words on lots and lots of Word documents and pages, and bringing that support in gives you that focus to actually build something.
Create structure and construct that makes sense to the reader.
Completely, yeah, because I know my story, most of it. There are some black spots, but I know my story.
We can forgive you.
But actually turning that story into something that is accessible is probably the biggest challenge.
What about the publishing process? So the book's written, you started the journey through publishing. What did you learn there? Goods, bads and uglies.
Oh man, that's the long bit,
hey.
Isn't it? Oh man, yeah, that's the long bit. I mean, I really enjoyed the editing process, because I've really got to know the book, and that's actually where the embryo of book 2 has come from. Is reading my book again and again and again and again, and I mean that whole process, that it takes time, and once again you need a team around about you. Yeah, I mean I've got friends who've written books, and I mean they're great reads. Don't get me wrong, but I know that they went out and did it themselves, and I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with self-publishing, where you are running that boat on your own, and what will come will come. I like this model where you have got a team: writers, editors, designers, publishing managers, production, marketing, because that one brain's fantastic, and no one's denying that you can come up with an awesome idea. But when you engage people that actually have an vested interest in the success of this product, that idea becomes much, much greater. So, assisted independent publishing certainly has shown its strength for authors, and not only just making sales, but making that impact that they want with the book, and that fundamentally, yes, we want to make money from this, but that impact and that change we want to create in people, and give them that opportunity to be better in what they choose to do. There's no greater reward than that, is there?
No, not at all. I think maybe even from a business perspective, it's like not being in the business, like not being in the book. You're looking over the whole thing, so it gives you that breathing space. What's next for Stu Darling?
He's writing another book.
I know.
Book
number 2.
There's a long way to go before we get to book 2. So where are we headed next? Lead Through Life Live is happening on the 2nd of May in Wellington. The Intercontinental Ballroom is booked, and we've already got some really exciting speakers coming to help me tell the story of how we actually can take back ownership of our lives. So that's really what's next. And then on the 3rd of May, I'm then off to the US to do some personal development, and we'll figure out what the next 6 months looks like after that. But yeah, I mean, it's continuing to grow the coaching side of the business. It's the book. Liz, my wife, is really interested in coming on to join the not-for-profit side of the business, which is beginning to take off. All proceeds that come in from my coaching, 10% of that goes back into us helping people who we choose to help. So people that we have a passion to help, but maybe can't can't afford coaching. We can look at it and say, hey, look, you're not getting this for free. Someone else has paid for my time, for me to help you guys. So I mean, this is big. This is the first step of exciting times. We don't play small.
I've personal professional development, been involved in that for years, as a book marketing mentor. There's a psychology that comes with it. We've been working together for a while. And I've also been fully aware of the change in this planet and in the way that people are interacting and engaging with each other. I think you're coming in, or you're in, at a time that's vital. I think your topic and your framework is a resource that is a must-have. Not just for individuals, I think it's really for organisations, I think it's for education, especially education. And I think that we're going to see some wonderful things happen with Lead Through Life and Stu and where that's going to go. And we're honoured to be a part of that. So, yeehaw, looking forward to this. Now, time for some fun. As a creative, Mr. Darling,
yes,
what would be your spirit animal and why?
I'll tell you what, that's got to be, I've had 4 days on the Gold Coast. That's probably the question that's been playing in my mind the whole time. What am I going to say? And even driving down here this morning, I was going, it's got to change, maybe I'm this, maybe I said, no, I'm not. I've come back to one that I came to last night. I am a cheetah.
Do tell.
So cheetahs, fastest animal on the planet. In very, very, very short bursts. The rest of the time, they lie around doing nothing.
Right.
And eating and drinking and looking after the families.
I just gave you a huge plug about the future of Stu Darling, and there's this guy.
Well, we're having some fun. So that whole concept of, I can commit and I can work like a Trojan, and I'll just get it done. Like this weekend. Having had 2 Saturday, Sunday, with just able to focus, I've probably got 2 weeks work done in the last 2 days because I can just get down, get on with it, get it done. And having that ability means that I can step back and I can spend time with family, I can spend time eating and drinking. So that was why I came to the cheetah.
To the cheetah, love it.
That's a really good answer. That's really enjoyable. So obviously we wear some shirts and we have a bit of a thing going on.
Specially made for today.
Yes, and I really enjoy that shirt. So what superhero would you be and why? Or superpower, if it's...
No, I once asked that guy. I used to use this question for junior officers, and I said to one, right, what's your favourite superpower? And this officer looked at me and said, Russia. Okay, get out. Right, so again, a lot of thought on this one, and I came to David Banner, Bruce Banner, the Incredible Hulk. Yep. But I came to him from, and this isn't the final answer, I came to it from the 1970s TV program, because I think it's a place that many, many of us exist. We arrive somewhere, we be ourselves, and because we're ourselves, we get ostracized. And at the end of every episode of The Hulk, you saw, with the piano music in the background, him, exactly, I've got it on my playlist, you saw David Banner walking out of the village because he had the temerity to be himself. Now, granted, he turned green and destroyed the place, I get that, but too many of us live in a world where we end up ostracizing ourselves because we frighten ourselves by being ourselves. And I thought, that's a bit serious, we can't say that.
A little bit.
Okay, so, Hong Kong Phooey. Hong Kong Phooey. Yeah, was it the chief of police? No, it wasn't. Was it Rosemary, the telephonist? No, it wasn't. It was Henry, the mild-mannered janitor.
There you go.
Yeah, the bloke that spends his life, well, the dog, that just spends his life helping people out until he becomes Hong Kong Phooey. And then it's just a mess. He does it all, it works, it just seems to happen, but he's never quite sure how it was a success. Hong Kong Phooey.
Hong Kong Phooey. Do you know who Hong Kong Phooey is?
No, I don't.
I grew up with Hong
no
Kong
idea,
Phooey,
sorry.
Which is certainly showing my age. Google Hong Kong Phooey.
Yeah, I'm going to have
Stu, I want to thank you very much for coming all the way over from Wellington, New Zealand
No
to
problem at all.
film this interview and also spend a couple of days in the audiobook studio doing Lead Through
Great.
Life there. Did you enjoy that?
Yet again, another one of those experiences that wee boy from Glasgow never thought he'd ever get, and it's just been, it was great. It was a great 2 days with the team.
Really glad to hear that. So guys, you want to go and check out Lead Through Life, you want to find more about the Lead Through Life framework, then you want to go to the website at the bottom of the screen. Go and check it out. Keep an eye on this guy. He's going to be a man to watch. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.